Welcome back to another review and feedback by Ritho, me. This is a game where somebody's attempting to do the MaxPax Proxy Gateway build, and they have some questions about it, so I wanted to go ahead and hit up what they were asking and kind of discuss with you all the build, what they were doing, how they can improve, all those other wonderful things. It was posted on Reddit, all things Protoss, so we do know that it is a Protoss player posting it. Their MMR is right around 3,500, which is in the upper Diamond 3 area, lower Diamond 2, I believe, right at the very cusp of Diamond 2. It does change a lot. I kind of try and keep track, but I don't look it up. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and load into our game, and then we will talk about what's going on. Since this is a submission via the Reddit from the Red player, we will be focusing on their play and what is going on. I don't know the exact specifics of the build, but I can only imagine that first probe is going off to place a pylon. Oh, nope, pylon at home. So, things. Very, very first thing you want to do is build a probe. This pylon's too early. You're going to lose out on income. You need to probe off the start. That's the very, very, very first thing I want to talk about. I'm not looking at MaxPax game, but until you are at MaxPax's level and you understand what cutting a worker does and why he's doing it, don't do it. You want to have that worker out immediately, save for the pylon, build the pylon later, because right now you're at 14 of 23 supply. If you hadn't built it at all, you would have on if I recall correctly, 15 worker positioning. It's just not worth it, essentially. That being said, you build it pretty quickly after the probe is done, right? Because you're doing a proxy build, you want to have that. You don't want to get delayed. You kind of also want to look normal-ish. So you might want to run it all the way out here to do that. There is a mineral loss, but it'll protect you from Reapers, especially if you're playing against Terran. You're kind of, remember, you aren't MaxPax. You're not going to micro like he does. You're not going to be able to do all of the multitasking that he does, unless you're, a GM way up there who is close to his skill level. So just remember that you need to tweak their builds ever so slightly to make it easier for yourself, specifically building placements. This is a great, cool idea, right? You're proxying your gateway. You're going to put on a lot of pressure. You're going to make it so that first natural is going to be either delayed or canceled. If it's delayed, it's placed up high. If it's canceled, then obviously it's down low, and then they have to place it up high. Very, very, very expensive for a Terran to do that. You don't want to arrive until after Reapers at least halfway across the map, so you kind of have a couple of choices. You can hang out with your probe, wait until that happens, then send your Zealot in, which I believe if you don't chrono, it works out really, really well timing-wise, and they have to make the decision, do they want to commit with the Reaper, or do they want to hang out at home? So I also would not have sent that probe back in. You want to kind of be aware that they're going to scout. They saw that probe doing some funny things. You've just made it so that your opponent is either going to do 1-1-1 internally, or they're going to build their command center internally. Either way, you're not going to want to do this. You've basically given away your strategy. In addition, your opponent went to a one-base build. I don't know if that's because they saw what you were doing and they were cheating. Not trying to accuse. I'm just simply saying that's theoretically one thing that could happen. Two, they could just have been wanting to do a one-base build. There are several Terran one-base builds. 5 racks, BC Rush, which I prefer to do a 2-base. There is a super safe build where you do some defensive stuff with your command center internally. There's a lot. The point is that I'm attempting to articulate is that this setup is a real thing, and you don't want to give away that you're going to do something funny at all until they've already committed to building this command center down here. So what you do is you make it look like your probe is just AFK. You park it right here. You just forget about it. Ignore that it exists. Don't chrono out that SC or the first Zealot. You just don't want to do that. You don't want to be in a situation where you're making that decision for your opponent until they have you want. How do I phrase this? The power of the build is to force your opponent to make a decision. Do they want to come home and kill the Zealot or Zealots, or do they want us to proceed forward to the opposite side of the map? That's why I was saying you still might want to wall off to protect yourself from that Reaper, just to be that a little extra annoying where they have to come all the way around here, and it's a lot easier to recall into your base, your Stalker, to kill that Reaper at some point. That being said, we're going to go look back through this game again to see what's going on, because I find it, you could put that on patrol or something until you get a Warp Prism and then grab it. You don't need to kill it. It consumes 1 supply, but it doesn't actually hurt you, because you should be able to have extra supply as is. Just you don't need to kill that. Just put it on patrol right here, and then if you ever recall of seeing it doing some funky dance right there, you can always do that. Sorry, back to the game itself. That was just a slight note I noticed as it was happening. Other things I noticed is like the way that you're positioning yourself is great. You're doing a really good job to protect yourself on the front, but you missed this Liberator coming in. I would have too, don't get me wrong. That's one of the things that I struggle with. My mini-map awareness is kind of crap. I need to take the time to focus on improving that quite a bit. The problem is, oh my god, he also put it so far forward. He's got you distracted at the front. You could take your Stalkers, send them up to your Stalkers, even one, and you could get that Liberator off of you. Time to go back. Like, you got to go back to getting your resources. You're doing okay. You're not really doing anything wrong. You want the Immortal up front because that'll kill off the Cyclone and the Hellion. It also has the shield. And then you want your Stalkers to be up here because you can kill Liberator, you can kill dropships, etc. This should be down here. And you should swap out 2 Stalkers up here instead, because then they can gun down whatever's coming at you. I do like this decision to do an Observer. You have a lot of gas. You're floating a ton. What I would do is probably either take off some gas or build another Observer, so that way you can see what's coming. This Raven would kill your stuff, but you know that they have a Raven at that point. You know that they're going to get ready to push you, and you're going to be more aware of the situation. So the struggle that you created, is you chronoed out your Zealot here. You did not need to chrono it. Getting that Reaper out in the middle of the map and then hitting and killing the Orbital Command or the wall makes it really difficult for them. You're still in position. Oof. Yeah, you're going to have to like work off of those 2. That's really expensive. You're in a lot of trouble here. Battery overcharge, yep. I would have done the back one just because they have tanks. Killing that's good. Nice job killing the tank, or trying your best to focus down the tank. You're just in a situation where you're kind of just behind, and then you have these 2 Stalkers that are still up here. You need to pull them down, and they need to be here immediately. The Immortal is going to go down again. You're going to lose it before it kills the tank. You've already lost all your energy. Like these 2, this needs to be there. This is an F2 situation. Game over. All right, so things that are funky. One was that this dude walled off immediately and went 1 base. That being said, there is multiple 1 base builds. I'm not attempting to accuse him of cheating or anything of that nature. I am simply articulating that just to be very clear that this player, we're going to speed up a little bit. We saw the game. I just want to see if they jump their camera around. Yep, that was weird. That was a funky camera jump, but I think that was just into the gold, which is not an unreal thing. Like that, people do that. They like set their hotkey over there because they intend to take it. They might be doing a hidden base at some point. Yeah, that was just a camera hotkey that they placed post game. So let's move it back up to our faster speeds. I am going to be keeping an eye to see if there's anything funny that happens as well. He sends where his Reaper's going to go. He checks to make sure he sends where he wants. He does get double gas before your probe even arrives. He's going to be doing a 1 base build, or a factory first build. So your build, like sending that probe back, now send that probe home. That probe needs to go home. That Zealot needs to not go in yet. You need to just make it so that your opponent does not think you're being cheeky, right? If that probe had gone all the way home versus you sending in with the Zealots as soon as you could, like, you would have been better off. I'm not trying to determine that what's going on. I would have scouted the same way. The guy was looking for it, especially since it came from over there. Like, it was a good that like is good play. He's testing your multitask with the Liberator. He's making it so that you're going to struggle against some stuff. It would have been even better if he had gone Banshee, maybe is a keyword, because then you don't have the Liberator. Or not a Liberator, the Raven. I don't know. I don't love his play. His build isn't how I would have built, but that being said, it is a viable build. It works, obviously, because he's doing it. But yeah, you basically... All right, so let's actually go through the good, the bad, the ugly, and what you did with... because this is a pretty quick video, right? Slow to get your second worker, your first worker under production, which means that you're going to be behind on income, just period in the game. You've hurt yourself, and you have not guaranteed any damage to make it worth it. So I would delay building that pylon down here even a couple of seconds to get that probe out to begin with. Not required, but the probe should go out first before this pylon arrives. It's just how you play. Like, Terran and Protoss have a slight window of supply cap. It's being supply capped during that 1 second of overlap for that first pylon coming out, and that your worker production continuing is super important. I would not have kept my probe around, right? You know you're going to be doing something cheeky. You know you're going to be there again. Either send your probe home, or don't send your probe, like, literally just not far enough back. Or send your probe over here, and then like send it like a really weird long way to get back over here, so you can do some cool stuff with that. The other bit is don't chrono boost your Zealot. You didn't need to. Your opponent had the correct timing on his Reaper. You saw that it was he saw you do some goofy stuff and immediately sent it right here. Had you not done goofy stuff and he had sent, and you like holding it here, putting your probe on patrol to see when they put their third, and you just forget about the probe until they kill it, then you know, hey, this base is being captured because they killed the probe, or the Reaper's coming out. Okay, cool. Like, that's a normal-ish looking thing. Sending the probe back in for scout to see if the wall was complete was stupid. Or sorry, not stupid. I'm being a little aggressive there. It gave away what you were doing, and therefore your build is going to struggle. Right, because you're basically saying, hey, don't send your Reaper across the map. There's a probe that's still hanging out. It's going to be easy for you to kill it. Might as well hang out. Maybe you're doing something cheeky because you're going to need something to tank for the other military unit. That was giving away the cake, right? The other thing that I would be aware of is, like, obviously Terran has Liberators, so you need to be very, very on top. And Widow Mines, so you need to be really, really, really on top of your camera positioning. Because if you have a dropship that comes through, or you have a Liberator that comes through, you need to be able to handle that. Also, pull back until you are behind the shield batteries. The reason being is that means that they're going to attack the shield battery. Until it has no shield, you're good. One Stalker immediately. You just need to send that one Stalker up there. You need this mining. Instead of sending it all the way back, or sending them all out and about to do your thing, send them to your natural. Your natural's protected, you have your army there, it makes it a lot easier for you to manage it because you don't have to move your camera as far, things like that. From this one game, it's really hard to see exactly what you're doing wrong. Again, I'm harping really hard with your income situation that you started here, and then I'm harping really hard on the fact that you chronoed here, because that really threw your build off, and it made it so your opponent kept their Reaper at home, especially with the probe still being a little cheeky, trying to push in and see what they were doing. It's one thing if you leave the probe right here. It's another thing entirely if you send it up here and then send it back. If you sent it here, then did a patrol, or you kept it here, that's totally different, and that makes total sense. You're basically saying, hey, I want to know exactly what you're doing, and that's like what you should be thinking about and doing. As for other play, you're getting supply blocked. You can't get supply blocked. You're not allowed to do that. Your Protoss, if anything, you have an Artosis pylon. Time to add another one that covers over your production here. Same with over here. Add another one. I don't disagree with any of the other positionings and things that you've done, but like your Protoss, two pylons is what you use to protect yourself from this kind of situation. Yeah, you got to be kind of cognizant of what happens here. This is the smart play, right? This Stalker can come down here and help immediately, because that Liberator is gonna, like, you need to give it shield anyways. You need more firepower at the front. This was very ambitious. I really like it. I think it's a good idea. Actually, had you left it there, you'd have killed the tank. The tank only got 3 kills. The second tank only got 3 kills. They're doing a 2-1-1 timing, or not a 2-1-1 timing, a 1-1-1 2 base timing, and you just weren't prepared for it, and you did no damage during your aggression. And that's because they started out with a 1 base because you did some goofy stuff, right? Like they kind of sussed out with that probe movement that you're doing some goofy stuff. Also, usually people attack the SUV here because it means that they can slow down that barracks and theoretically make it to the Reapers later. And if you're macroing, it's really important to do that. If you're not macroing, it's not important to do that. I mean, it's important to do that, period, just simply because you want to make sure that they wall here, right? You also are going to see if you're going to force them to micro a little bit. Like one of these SUVs is going to come back over. Like this, I think this is a cool idea. Like, I like what you did, but don't do it if you're going to be doing this build. What you want to do is you want to keep this at the front until they're doing stuff, right? Like, and if you had attacked that SUV while it was building, that would have been, you'd get them the same amount of information, and you'd have been annoying to your opponent. And this Reaper would have said, I'm going to go over here. Because if you look at the replay, right, I did show it earlier, they have it rallied to the other side of the map. It's rallied into your base. And then when that probe comes back, as soon as he sees it, watch. We're going to watch this rally. This is you giving away the farm with this build. He sees it, he goes, huh, that's funny, puts it right there. That was you giving away the build. That is straight up you losing, because he's like, okay, am I getting cannon rushed? Am I getting proxied? What's going on? And you are proxying, obviously. He goes, oh, well, let me just not send my Reaper away, which is going to stop any zealots that you send. Bye-bye. Right? Like, this ended your game right there. Or not ended the game, but it ended your aggression from this location, and that stinks. Now you're like, oh crap, I'm so vulnerable to stuff. Let me get another gateway. Let me get my Nexus as fast as I can. Let me put up some shield batteries, because your opponent is going to come for you because he knows that you don't have the safety at home that you expect. Because you are proxying. You're way over here. Also, when that Reaper goes out and it's attacking your probe, why would you send it to defend the probe? Attack the front wall. Force him to come back. Make it so that probe has a reason to stay alive. Make it so that you can put some damage on these supply depots, theoretically making him pull back. Imagine if this Stalker had killed a probe, or an SCV rather, or had the Reaper pulled back way earlier and been able to get 2 or 3 more shots off from this build here. Also, that would have been a dead Reaper. You had to pull back, and then you could fight a little bit better against what he was doing. Like, and your build is super aggressive, so you need to be very smart about your aggression, because you're trying to end the game or do significant damage early game. This is you macroing, which is good. Like, that's perfect. But when you get into this interaction with your opponent, saying, "Oh, I found this," "Oh, you haven't really like forced a slowdown on them, because they were all going 1 base anyways," and with your scout, you would have found that out without giving it away if you just stayed here and attacked the SCV until you had pulled workers, which actually gives them you a mineral surplus versus you losing the probe or whatever. You're making them pull things on micro for you pressing 1 button and clicking on the probe or their SCV that's building. And theoretically, you could slow them down. You already see what's in the wall, so on and so forth. And then, of course, you just pull back because you're being annoying. Send the probe home, have that extra income, and your army shows up as soon as that Reaper is over here on the other side of the map, killing your probe or whatever, and you now have 2 zealots on their wall undefended versus not. The rest of the gameplay is just little minor decisions with combat. Like, you're oversaturated on your main, you didn't set it down here. When he does the Liberator thing, you don't take the army, your resources, and send them here. You pull back here and leave them alone. You should have pulled him back here and then sent him here immediately. I know that you're trying to defend the front. Don't get me wrong. I understand that's hard. He's hitting you multi-prong. This is probably why he's ranked at Diamond 2, or Diamond 2-ish, Diamond 3-ish, is because this player has figured out that they can hit the front, not lose any of this army or very little of this army, and have a Liberator hit at the same time, which is going to hurt a lot of Protosses and a lot of Zergs. So this is like their playstyle. So I would have to see other games of the same build order and matchup in order to like really give you true feedback, because this player might just have hit the antithesis of what you were doing by having a one base build, having the defenses up already, and doing, of course, and having pretty decent control with regards to the armor that they were building, and then, of course, doing a 2-base push to just end Protoss's. Which is very, very, very powerful, because Protoss struggles because your units are so expensive. So sending one Stalker up here takes, like, your army down by, let's see, army value. You basically are now even in army value to him, essentially, for lack of a better way of putting it. And you can see he F2s his army, too. But he leaves the Liberator because it's sieged. So, like, he has the ability to keep it there until he's ready to do it, which is a cool idea if you like using F2, just for those of you that are watching to do that. But, like, he has a Raven, he has 2 tanks, he has a Liberator that's sieging up at about the same time this attack is going to go, hoping that you'll overreact and pull too many Stalkers back here. If you had pulled 3 Stalkers, he would have just bumped the front and you'd have been in trouble. And, of course, he's continuing to produce more army at home. So he has another follow-up, so even if you do a really good job of defending, he's able to do that. Your army was a little bit far forward, so the tanks were able to, or a little bit far back or a little bit far forward, depending on how you stand on it. Like, you don't have your tanks, your army allowed for him to get on the shield battery, which is fine. That's not, like, I'm not upset in any way, shape, or form with the fact that he was able to do that. You should have killed that. That was one more shot instead. But, like... You have 2 choices with Protoss. Be really conservative and keep your army way back here. All of it together. That means including this piece, and you send appropriately to the threats that are happening. So you a Liberator, send 3 Stalkers, the rest of your army's still here, you have all the things ready to go, you have the shield batteries appropriately, and you have the ability to push. Which means that they can siege up a little bit closer, and they can knock you out. Or you go really far out and pull back when you see the army. That way the siege tanks can't just go into position. You know that they're there, etc., etc., but you have to be on top of pulling your army away, so that way you don't lose the army. I do like the position. Okay. Sorry. Those are just like, and that's for all players, for all races. You can either play pretty conservative. Oh, I'm going to put it behind the wall. I'm going to put it back. I'm going to be very attentive. I'm not going to be super attentive and super fast. That's where you wall this off. That's what you have here. That Reaper not going across, etc. But the point being is essentially, also those Zealots should have just gone right up the wall, right up the up here immediately. Like, you should. There is so much more damage you should have done. Regardless, all right, the good. You have a good build order. Your build order is very powerful. It does allow you to do things. You macroed in the middle of your pressure, making sure you got that expansion. You did a pretty good job of continuing your pro production. You did a pretty decent job of building up after the fact when they eventually discovered what you were doing. You had a pretty good game plan. Your scouting was on point. There's a lot of really good features that you did as the red player. I really like those plays. The downside is some of the decisions you made, like the patrol back and forth, is really cool and works really, really well on somebody, but you gave away that you were trying to do something funny because they had a wall up and you didn't hang out and attack that SCV. If you had attacked that SCV or, like, tried to block the wall, you would have given it away as well, but, like, just or not attacking the SCV, giving it away. But, but attacking the SCV is a really, like, really useful feature that you could have done to, like, be annoying. And they may or may not have done anything with this. But it also gives you the knowledge that they did this wall off immediately, and you could just wait and build more units before attacking with it. So that way you had the Stalker and the 2 Zealots show up at the same time with their Reaper all the way over on the other side of the map, and then they have to make a decision how to fight, how to deal with it, and it's going to be a nice surprise versus the other side. So basically, you kind of shot yourself in the foot. Again, you have the Zealots that are slow. Like, imagine if these 3 units are on the other side of the map and you're hanging out on defense, fighting only 1 Reaper with a Stalker, or 2 against the Liberator, and they are stuck at base. This doesn't come out. You've already done damage. You destroyed a supply depot, etc., etc. Like, there's a lot of things that, and then you had all these workers that were idle for a long time. This has been great to have them all go back here. I think I've mashed the point really, really hard. The Terran has a really good build for what they want to do. They're really smart about it. They clearly have done it many times. They're doing a really good job with everything other than their Raven control. I wish the Raven was further back when it died later on in the game. And I wish they also used the energy on the Raven prior to it dying. I do like the fact that they have 2 armies. I like the fact that they have multiple army, that they're very, like, I'm going to build up before I move out. They have the swap decision times for specific things. They're moving out with a big army, not just one location. This is a slight mistake, of course. I don't know if I would have done this swap. I'd have left this here, moved the starport off, and then moved the factory on, kept this going, and not had to deal with switching with these 2 buildings here. You'd just be a slightly later, maybe a second and a half later, if you had not made the mistake. Actually, a little bit longer, maybe 4 seconds. But no, that was a pretty big timing mistake. But the point that I'm attempting to articulate is that you should have just kept the factory on this tech lab, and then built that tank a little bit earlier, and then swapped these around. Swapped the barracks for the tech lab off of the starport. I don't know why you got a tech lab for the starport, because unless you just built it because you needed, the building was going to be idle because you were doing a liberator. But having a medevac is really, really powerful, and if you had not, if you had decided to not actually do that, then you'd have been way better off. Also, pushing into an overcharged shield battery is absolute insanity. I cannot believe that you won that fight and did it pretty handedly, when the fact that the overcharge was literally busy the entirety of the time that you were fighting. Like, that was oh my gosh, that was nuts. Regardless, it was a good game to watch. I appreciate you putting yourself out there. It's really hard to get some feedback and hear people's responses on what you do and how what your play is and all that kind of stuff. And there is a lot of opportunity to refine the build a little bit better, and make some really good decisions to make it so that you are able to use this build to your maximum potential. Remember, you have to tweak things just a little bit to maximize at your skill level. If you're able to micro in 4 different locations, you're able to do blah, 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 blah. You know the exact specific build orders and all the outs based off of how much income you have. You have a plan that goes with each different out, and you have a strong build that's going to be good regardless of. You know what is going to be countering to you. You're going to make it so your opponent makes mistakes because you're forcing them to make decisions, stuff like that. That's when you can start to follow exactly what the pros are doing. Generally speaking, what you want to do is you see a 2-1-1 and you say, I can't execute as well as Maru. And I'm using Maru as an example, right? Because he's the 2-1-1 king, and he's the reason that Marines aren't any more powerful than they already are, and that a lot of people play bio. But what you do know, you do find out from those players is that you don't have that skill to pick up and drop and be in 3 places at once and macro behind all of it, and da-da-da-da-da-da. So what you need to do is you need to say, hey, I have this thing going on. I know what I'm looking for. I know how to make it so that I can do similar to what they have with an army composition. Maybe I can, because my micro's not as good and I can't multitask as well, maybe instead I make it a 4-1-1 instead of a 2-1-1. Or make it a 3-1-1 because I'm still pretty solid, but I'm not as good. Or maybe I make it into a slightly more powerful attack slightly later and just straight up do skip the third, or I go more eco-focus and grab the third earlier than Maru does, because I know that I want to just make it look like I'm doing a 2-1-1, but I can't execute like he can. And all I have to do is keep them busy while I get my third established, and we're good to go with that one drop off and all my units that are being produced at home. I'm not going to do a second drop like GMs do, and so on and so forth. And I'm using that as an arbitrary example because my skill level and my understanding of the game, as well as, hey, once you're at that GM level, you're going to be at that GM level because you understand things that you didn't know before. When you become a pro, if you ever become a pro, and you try to become a pro, and you push to that level to a GM, and then you say, okay, what do I not know about the game? And then you understand and learn those things. You also have to take into respect all of that kind of knowledge and experience that you're going to gain as you play more and more games. As a diamond player, you're saying, hey, I kind of can follow a build order. Hey, I can kind of micro. And hey, I can kind of hit when I want to hit with the stuff that I've built. So I'm going to do what to make it so that you can go from that diamond player to a master's player. Understanding your flaws is super important to do that. And being able to put yourself out here like this is one of those things to make it happen. So Regardless, GG's, and thank you so very much for putting yourself out there, and I hope to see something else from you in the future. Sorry, I never called out the game players. Oh my goodness. The Protoss was BadGateway, and the Terran was Ironmanluvu. But GG's, guys, and thank you so much for playing the game. Bye-bye.